How's it going, everyone? So in this video I'll be talking about the games that I played in the summertime, summer 2011. So these are the games that I played during the months of June, July, and August. Now, despite being an RPG guy, most of the games that I played during the summertime were first-person shooters, and I guess since I was going through some pretty frustrating times in my personal life during the summertime, I guess I was just in the mood to shoot things and blow stuff up. Now, most of these games do have online multiplayer gameplay, and if I play the game online, then I will talk a little bit about the online gameplay. If I don't mention anything about the online gameplay, then I did not play the game online. So yeah, now hopefully this fall I'll be able to play some more RPGs. There are two RPGs that I do plan on playing this fall. They're older games though. One of them is the first Dragon Age Origins, and the other one is this game right here, Fallout 3. Hopefully I'll be able to get started on this game pretty soon. Yeah, so these two games that you see in front of you, Far Cry 2 and Modern Warfare 2, I did play these two games during the summertime, but I'm not going to talk about them here. Far Cry 2, I do want to do a short video on Far Cry 2, and I do want to do a video on Modern Warfare 2, talking about the single-player campaign. I'll also give my thoughts on the controversial No Russian level. I'll also talk about Spec Ops, and I'll mention a little something about the trophies. Now, I did start playing a couple RPGs in the summertime, and Final Fantasy III for the Nintendo DS is one of them. This is actually the second time that I tried playing this game. The first time was 2 years ago, 2009. Final Fantasy III has a nice old-school RPG feel to it that I'm really comfortable with. However, the bosses in this game can be pretty brutal. And to my knowledge, and correct me if I'm wrong, to my knowledge, there aren't any save points in any of the dungeons in this game. So, I played this game for about 6 hours, and I made it to one of the dungeons. I made my way through the dungeon to get to the boss, and since there aren't any save points, I went on to take on the boss. And this wasn't like, I wasn't like rushing to get to the boss. I did spend some time grinding and leveling up, and so, however, when I made it to the boss and took on the boss, I guess I was not at a high enough level. So the boss just completely wiped me out, and because there weren't any save points in that dungeon, it's like 15 to 20 minutes that I spent making my way to that boss. All that time was just wiped out, and you know, that really pissed me off, so I had to put this game down. So 2 years later, 2011, I figured I'd give this game another shot, and this time I'd be playing at a much more relaxed, slower pace. This time I'd be doing more leveling up, more grinding. I would try to over-level up, if that's possible, before taking on some of the bosses. In July, I started playing Tales of Legendia, and I've been playing it on and off ever since. It's September now, and I figured I should have beaten this game a few weeks ago. If I ever do beat this game, I do want to do a video about it. I also played quite a bit of Disgaea 3, and those of you who know me know that despite being an RPG guy, I'm not that into strategy RPGs. I've played and beaten Vandal Hearts 1, Shining Force 2, and the GBA Shining Force game, which I believe is a remake of the original Shining Force game. And those are the only three strategy RPGs that I ever recall beating. So I'm always on the lookout for a strategy RPG game to get me into the strategy RPG genre. Now, as for Disgaea 3, it's a charming game. It's got very likable characters. I like the English voice acting in the game. I didn't find any of the voices to be annoying. The characters in the game do say a lot of hilarious stuff. They do get into very funny situations. The gameplay mechanics and the battle system is pretty solid. The game does have trophy support, and with a few exceptions, most of the trophies in the game are either pretty tricky to get or very time consuming. So if you're playing Disgaea 3 for trophies, just know that most of the trophies in the game aren't that easy to get. I also played Transformers Revenge of the Fallen, and it's a pretty solid game. I guess some people would call it a mediocre game, but with the exception of a few bad controls here and there, there's nothing really broken about the gameplay. I did have a pretty fun time playing this game. Now, I did play the 2007 Transformers game based on the first live-action Transformers movie, and I did have a more enjoyable time playing that game over this game. But like I said, Revenge of the Fallen is still a pretty solid game. I paid $30 for this game, and it's not worth $30, and that's mainly because the game is pretty short. It does have two campaigns. There's an Autobot campaign and a Decepticon campaign, but even with two campaigns, the game is still pretty short. It didn't take me very long to beat both campaigns. The game does have some pretty cool unlockables. You can unlock a couple of episodes of the 80s Transformers cartoon, which is pretty cool, but a lot of us hardcore Transformer fans probably already have those episodes on DVD. I did play the game online. Played maybe 3 matches online, and the online gameplay is pretty solid, but nothing spectacular. Next game is Jurassic The Hunted, and it's a first-person shooter, and instead of shooting humans, as you can probably tell from the cover, you're shooting dinosaurs. It's a pretty decent game with pretty solid gameplay mechanics. There's nothing broken about the gameplay. However, the game is very short. There is no online multiplayer, and so there's only the single-player campaign. And I did play through the game twice. You play through the game once on a lower difficulty level and beat the game, and that will unlock the highest difficulty level. And so you play the game again on the highest difficulty level and beat it on the highest difficulty level. You do get a trophy for beating the game on the highest difficulty level. So yeah, this game does have some pretty easy trophies, so this game is worth checking out if you want to get some pretty easy trophies. But in my opinion, there is no replay value with this game, so therefore this game ends up being very forgettable. So I recommend a rental with this game. If you're looking to buy this game, I wouldn't pay more than $10 for it. Quantum Theory is the definition of a mediocre game. It's a game that you'll be playing for a couple of hours, and then suddenly maybe you'll have the urge to stop playing the game for no good reason. Except for a few bad game design, level design choices here and there, there's nothing really wrong with the gameplay. I mean, when you're playing the game, it can be quite fun shooting the enemies, and it's always sweet to pull off your headshots. But despite all that, Quantum Theory is one of the least exciting action shooting games that I've ever played. There are just a lot of other games similar to this one that do things a lot better, that are just much more enjoyable to play. Quantum Theory is a third-person action shooting game with a cover system. The game that I hear Quantum Theory being compared to the most is Gears of War, and while I've never played a Gears of War game before, I'm sure Gears of War plays a lot better than Quantum Theory. One of the most annoying things about Quantum Theory is, like I said, the game does have some bad level design, game design choices. In the game, you play as this big, bulky dude, and there are some areas in the game that are in this small, closed-off environments where you have to constantly dodge enemy attacks. And since you're a big, bulky dude, when you dodge enemy attacks, sometimes you'll hit obstacles in your path, and therefore that'll hinder your dodge, and therefore you'll still get hit by enemy attacks. Where, let's say, if in the game, like if you were playing a much smaller, skinnier character, it'd be much more easier for you to dodge enemy attacks and avoid hitting any obstacles in your path. But since you are playing a big, bulky dude in Quantum Theory, in my opinion, those areas in the game should not be in the game. It took a long time for Wolfenstein to drop in price. The game was released in August 2009, and it was more than a year later, either October or November of last year, 2010, that I was finally able to find a brand new copy for $20 at my local Kmart. Now, if I had paid the full $60 for this game, I figured I would have been severely disappointed. It's not a bad game, it's an above average game. However, there are just a lot of other first-person shooters that I enjoy playing a lot more than this game. Now, in Wolfenstein, you do have these special powers that you can activate for a limited amount of time. You have this power to see hidden passages, hidden doorways, a power to slow down time, and you can activate a shield to block bullets for a limited amount of time. Like I said, you can activate these powers for a limited amount of time, and then they either get turned off or you shut them off, and then your powers will regenerate over time, or you can find these areas where your powers will regenerate a lot faster, and then you can use your powers again. Now, these powers, these special powers, to me, they just seem a bit too much gimmicky, and the main reason I say that is because I never got 100% completely comfortable with using these powers. They never became second nature. I actually prefer these powers not to be in this game. Now, I did use these powers a lot, and that's because there are a lot of areas in the game that either require you to use the powers in order to pass the area, or there are areas in the game that it would have been extremely difficult to get past those areas if you didn't use their powers. So, I guess Wolfenstein's a pretty good game. It's just not one of my favorite first-person shooters. I wasn't too sure what to expect prior to playing Killzone 2. Now, I did play the original Killzone 1 on the PS2, and while that game did have a few control issues, Killzone 1 did end up being a pretty enjoyable game for me to play. Now, Killzone 1 got mixed reviews, while Killzone 2, for the most part, I believe, got great reviews across the board. So I kind of knew that Killzone 2 would at least be a better game than the original. What I did not expect is that Killzone 2 would end up being my all-time favorite first-person shooter on the PS3. First off, the developer, Guerrilla, they really listened to the criticisms people had with the first game, and they worked really hard to fix things. I found the controls in Killzone 2 to be extremely smooth. I was very comfortable with the controls. I had no control issues at all, and therefore I was able to fully enjoy the game. And while I have not played every first-person shooter in existence, I will say that I have played my fair share of first-person shooters, and never before have I found shooting and killing enemies to be as fun and as addicting as I did while playing Killzone 2. I mean, shooting and killing enemies in Killzone 2 was just pure fun. I mean, you know, when you're playing first-person shooters, it's always fun to shoot and kill enemies, but Killzone 2 takes it to a whole new level. There is one minor thing about Killzone 2 that I don't like, and I feel I do have to mention, and anyone who's played this game will know what I'm talking about. When you're playing the game, you're going through the levels, you're traveling through the levels. You'll eventually reach a point in which the game will kind of pause for a few seconds while the next area is loading up. And during those times, you might think that the game has frozen up on you, when in actuality, the game is just pausing for a few seconds while the next area loads up. And this was a bit jarring at first, and it did become a little bit of annoyance, but to be totally honest, it didn't really hinder my enjoyment of the game. And yeah, so it's just a little nitpicky thing, but I did feel that I have to mention that. Anyway, if you're a PS3 owner and you love first-person shooters, you must have Killzone 2 in your collection. It's pretty cheap now, too. Killzone 2 is a greatest hits game, so the regular price of it is $30, but I'm sure you can find it at a couple places for as low as $20. Killzone 2, in my opinion, set the standard for first-person shooters on the PS3. Every first-person shooter that I play on the PS3 after Killzone 2, I'll always compare it back to Killzone 2. I'll always ask the question, is this game as good as Killzone 2? Killzone 2, you'll probably hear me say this a lot more often later on, but while I have not played every first-person shooter released for the PS3, I can say hands down, Killzone 2 is my currently my all-time favorite first-person shooter on the PS3, and I say that even after playing Modern Warfare 2. I almost did not buy Battlefield Bad Company. Now, prior to purchasing this game, I did play a little bit of the demo from PSN, and I wasn't that impressed. So when I saw this game at my local Kmart, I passed on it like 5 or 6 times before finally making the decision to buy this game. And the main reason why I decided to buy this game is that it was a $20 game and it had trophy support, so I figured I'd give it a shot. And man, am I glad I picked this game up. This game is one of the most addicting first-person shooters that I ever played. Now, I haven't played every first-person shooter that has been released for the PS3, but the thing I like the most about Battlefield Bad Company is that, in my opinion, the game has the best controls of any first-person shooter that I ever played thus far on the PS3. When you're playing an action game, especially a first-person shooter, when you're playing any action game that requires quick reflexes, you don't want to have to find yourself fighting the controls, and that was totally no problem with this game. Firing your weapon in Battlefield Bad Company just felt very natural. The controls just felt like second nature. Now, the online for this game is amazing. The thing I like, one of the best things that I like about the online is that there is like no waiting around for you to connect to a match. I mean, you do have to wait a little bit for the map to load up, but once the map loads up, you can jump into the match at any point, even if the match is already in progress. So with some online games, you have to commit like an hour or 2 hours in order to play a couple of online matches. But with Battlefield Bad Company, you can just go online, play for 15-20 minutes, and then get off. And then a couple of days later, go online again, play for 15 or 20 minutes, and get off. So this is like the perfect game for anyone who has like a busy life, but they still want to play online. You know, they still have, 15-20 minutes here and there to play online. So this is the perfect game for them. Now, there were a couple times in which I entered a match in which my opponent was much more highly skilled than I was, and they killed me a lot. So that was pretty frustrating. But that happens with any online game. Now, the game did freeze up on me once when I was playing online, and it was just that one time that it froze up on me, and it sucks that the one time the game froze up on me was when I was playing online. But other than that, the online for this game is highly recommended. Next is the Saboteur. Now, I've mentioned in the past that one of my favorite video game genres is the sandbox open world type games, and the Saboteur is one of those type of games, so the Saboteur ended up being a very enjoyable game for me to play. The game was developed by Pandemic, which sadly doesn't exist anymore, but Pandemic also developed games like Star Wars Battlefront and Destroy All Humans, so if you played any of those two games on the PS2, the controls and gameplay of the Saboteur are very similar to the controls and gameplay of those two games. And so I really like the controls of Star Wars Battlefront, so I was very comfortable with the controls and gameplay of the Saboteur. Not only was the game very fun to play, the game does have a very enjoyable story. The main character is involved in a love triangle with two very sexy women, one a blonde, one a brunette, so I got a nice kick out of that. Sadly, the Saboteur could have been one of my favorite PS3 games of all time. Now, while the game was probably the most enjoyable game that I played this past summer, I hesitate to recommend this game to anyone, and the main reason for that is, despite downloading all the patches and fixes, the Saboteur does have some serious freezing issues. The game froze up on me at least 5 times. Once the game froze up while I was booting the game, and the game froze up even before I got to the menu screen to start the game. So the game does have auto saves and manual saves. You can manually save your game at any time except during the story dialogue sequences. So yeah, you can even save your game during missions, although if you save your game during missions, it doesn't save your mission progress. So if the game freezes up when you're doing a mission, you'll have to redo the mission all over again. Now, thankfully, none of the missions in this game are very long. So if you play this game, I do recommend saving very often. And now we finally got into the last game in this video, and it's a game that everyone's been patiently waiting around to hear me talk about. And that game is Disney Sing It for the PS3. Yeah, this was a game that, we played when people came over, friends, relatives, family members. It's a game that we played whenever we needed like a party game. I swear I did not play this game on my own. I swear. I never played this game on my own, but I do feel that I have to defend this game though. The game has gotten some pretty harsh reviews, which I think is undeserved. Now granted, how much you enjoy this game depends on whether or not you like the songs in this game, and so you don't like the songs in this game, you won't enjoy this game very much. But this is a great pickup for anyone who watches the Disney Channel a lot and likes the songs from the Disney Channel. In my opinion, it does have a great song selection of songs from the Disney Channel. There's songs from all 3 High School Musical movies, songs from the Hannah Montana TV show, including the theme song, and there are some Ali and AJ songs in here, including my personal favorite, Chemicals React. Yeah, for some reason I seem to do very well on the songs that are sung by the females, and I don't seem to do that well on the songs sung by the guys. I have no idea what's up with that. But yeah, now the game did freeze up on me once, and it doesn't have trophy support. I don't believe this game was ever released in a bundle with a microphone. The game does require a microphone, so if you have like a microphone that came with games like SingStar or Karaoke Revolution, then those microphones will work with this game. Yeah, like I said, this is a great pickup for anyone who watches the Disney Channel a lot and likes the songs. This game right here I got for $15 at my local Kmart, brand new. Alright, so that's the end of the video. Thanks for watching, everyone.